Hi, Garden Sessions audience. Dr. Warren-Phillips of Relate Psychological Services here. I'm going to make this fast because it's still in the low 40s. We have emerged from the deep freeze of last week, but I'm going to show you some stuff that has not quite rebounded. So, a lot of attention was put on preparing various flower beds to tolerate what was coming last week, and that is the freeze. And some things did well, and some things did not. We've got some Dusty Miller here that did well. The Dianthus was resilient, as were the Snapdragons. However, as you can see, the Society Garlic is not happy. So this begs the question, how do we tolerate our emotional response to seeing aspects of our hard work in the garden so significantly damaged? Well, I want to take a deeper dive into that question, but I'm going to meet you in the office because it's way too cold to be chatting outside. All right, now that I'm in a warmer environment, I want to resume this conversation about how are we responding to our emotional response to the impact this freeze had on our garden. I can tell you that for myself, I have evolved. And this year, I have taken much more of a radical acceptance stance in my approach to responding to how this freeze affected my garden. Right now, there's a lot of it that is not looking good. But I already anticipated that this is what was going to happen. And so I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to roll with it. Radical acceptance is about acknowledging the present situation, but without judgment or criticism of yourself. This is an acceptance strategy that comes from dialectical behavioral therapy. And essentially, it says that we have choices in how we respond to pain. We can change a situation sometimes, that's possible, but not all the times. We may modify how we look at a situation, and that's an approach that is borrowed from cognitive behavioral therapy. We may choose to continue to suffer. And in this case, that might be longingly looking through the window, mourning the losses that we have seen in our garden, experiencing that emotional distress about the damage that our landscape has taken from this. Or we can radically accept the impact. Now, this is not about giving up. It's also not about being passive, but what it is about is making space in your life or garden to free up your resources so that you can make an impact on what it is that you are going through. If you were to put too much of a focus of being critical of your garden, right, whether that be just constantly inventorying how bad things look right now, obsessing over what may or may not rebound once this cold weather is completely behind us and the warmth of spring wraps its arms around us. But instead, if we were to do that, that's actually going to stall our ability to move forward and change the situation. If we continue to blame ourselves for what maybe you're assessing as a less than perfect preparation for the freeze. Perhaps you're kicking yourself because you didn't put enough landscaping blankets over your garden. You didn't add lights. You didn't remove the blankets during the day so it could warm up and then cover them all back up again at night so they're protected. Which, by the way, that is a ton of work. And if you have that kind of time, kudos to you. But if you're super busy like I am, who has that kind of time? And if we just focus on blaming ourselves for our deficits of what we didn't do, that's going to lead to more distress and paralysis. And for some folks, that might look like throwing in the towel and giving up on trying to maintain a beautiful garden, a lovely landscape in or around your home. So, what does radical acceptance sounds like? Here's some sample statements. It could be, rebuilding my garden is the only thing I have control of with my landscape right now. The damage of the freeze is done. Focusing on what I lost holds me back from growing new plants. This is a really common phrase that you're going to hear in all kinds of other circumstances, but it applies to gardening as well. And that is, it is what it is. Okay. Some people like that. Some people don't. Right. Do with it as you will. Another statement of radical acceptance is I'm moving forward with new ideas. So after we start to incorporate these statements, right, and into our reflections of our landscape right now, then we want to make sure that we are distracting ourselves with the aspect of gardening that puts a smile on your face. So what might that look like right now? It could be spending some time researching replacements. Maybe you're going to the local library and sitting down, pulling some of the gardening books and researching what is native to my area. And perhaps for you, that means that you're going to have options available to you that are more likely to survive harsher winter conditions and tolerate warmer summer environments. You can start this week researching what would be appropriate to start from seed so that later on that can go into the ground in the spring. That's also a cost-effective way of rebounding from what may end up being the loss of some plants that you invested in last year. You could get to moving and go take a walk, stroll through your neighborhood or go to a different area and become inspired by seeing what survived the freeze. I can tell you in putting together this video, I observe some things that make me think, aha, the snapdragons, the dianthus, the Dusty Miller, all three of those did like remarkably well. And I will add on that just because it doesn't look great right now does not mean that it died. Right now, I've got agapanthus in my backyard that is looking awful. There's some variegated ginger, and I'm going to show you some of that on the screen as well that I saw on a walk today. There's variegated ginger that is looking awful. There's some foxtail ferns that just look miserable, but in the spring, that's when you need to pause, trim back what looks bad, what definitely is damaged, and make space for the new growth to emerge. Many times those types of plants will come back, especially the foxtail fern. You can hardly kill that. Another thing that you can do presently that can help put a smile on your face is to join an online gardening group. Maybe you're on Facebook and you can join one of the gardening groups for your area so that you're getting ideas of what works in your zone for gardening, and that can be inspiring. I do want to encourage you to use restraint right now. Don't go running out to that garden, pulling up all the stuff that is ugly, the items that have damaged foliage, unless the foliage is mushy, because that can breed some bacteria and could harm your garden. If it is totally mushy and gooey, go ahead and take that part out. Also, refrain from pruning those things that are dry but damaged, because if you were to prune right now, what do we know about pruning? Pruning promotes new growth. It's only mid to late January right now. There's likely to be another freeze or two between now and spring. And so if you prune and stimulate new growth, that new growth is going to be more fragile and it can give way to a future freeze. So you want to hold off because you don't want to promote that new growth. So the best thing to do right now is to just accept that, yes, the landscape is not going to look its very best right now because of the impact of the freeze. Accept that, and behind the scenes, get ready for a remarkable rebound this spring. I hope that you have been inspired and encouraged by the content of this video. Again, I'm Dr. Warren-Phillips of Relate Psychological Services. This has been Garden Sessions. I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to you joining me on my next video. Take care.